The Tao Te Ching, it's an ancient Chinese text. We don't know the exact date, but it was probably written around 2500 years ago. Its authorship is also shrouded by legend, and often it is attributed to ancient Chinese sage Lao Tzu. Perhaps you already know about this book. It's a book of practical advice for leaders and philosophers, and it contains the wisdom of Taoism. In fact, that's what people find tricky about Taoism, and there's a legend also about what Lao Tzu said about it. He said that he was initially reluctant about writing it down because he thought that putting words on paper would probably kill the essence of Taoism. And that's why he was a little reluctant. But then he finally wrote it down. And as we know, now we have probably the second most, to be honest, widely read and published book. The second only to the Bible. But in this podcast, I'll specifically discuss the kind of parenting advice we can get from this book. And this is something what William Martin has tried to do in his book called The Parents' Tao Te Ching. So I will use Martin's interpretations of the ancient text to provide you some insightful lessons on the modern parenting. And let's see what important and interesting lessons we can learn from this ancient text. So I have come up with 3 interesting lessons, and I'll share with you one by one. The first is, don't just preach, let your kids learn. The idea here is you can speak to your children about life, but your words are not life itself. So you should understand that. You can show them what you see, but you're showing and they're seeing, it will always be different. So what to do in this case? So Martin provides a very simple exercise, a very practical advice that you can do. He says, go for a slow and mindful walk with your child. Show them every little thing that catches your eye. Notice every little thing that catches theirs. Don't look for lessons or seek to teach great things. Simply observe. Observe them. Notice what they observe. Then understand them. The lesson will teach itself once you bring that harmony. So you create that atmosphere. And the children will learn by themselves. The second key lesson is the art of happiness. And I'm sure you would agree the greatest thing that a child can acquire is the art of happiness. And it doesn't mean that simply making your child happy by offering them great pleasures. No, that's not what we mean here. What we are trying to aim here is to teach the art of creating happiness. And how do we do that? The author tells us. He says, encourage your children's deepest joys, not their superficial desires. Praise their patience, not their ambition. Once they are comfortable with themselves, they find contentment everywhere. Once they find contentment, they'll find happiness inevitably. More importantly, your own happiness is going to be contagious too. They learn the art from you. So the lesson here is, you let them do the most meaningful, most interesting things in life. And once they are comfortable with that, once they are comfortable with just living, with just being, the happiness will come on its own. The next interesting question and advice is about whether we should punish our children or not. It should be easy for you. So the book tells us that there are different ways to control our children. You can control them by threats and punishments, and with that they'll learn to fear. And many of us already do that, and we think that this approach works. And we think this works because we ourselves once went through this cycle of mental slavery. And so we feel we'll impose it, and that makes perfect sense to us. The problem is, with this approach, the child will always be fearful. They'll always have those issues, psychological issues. And they'll have a very difficult time developing trust throughout their lives. So what is the alternative? The author tells us, if your child fails at something, merely express your confidence in their ability to handle the consequences. If they behave irresponsibly, just point out the consequences to themselves and others. Once again, express your trust that they will learn. Do not slip into the downward spiral of blame, shame, and control. It doesn't work. It doesn't work surely in the long terms. So these are just 3 pieces of advice from the book. And you'll get many more once you get to read the book. And I'm sure you will do that.